having that level of comfort, whether you're talking to Betty White or a guy that can shove $3 of quarters in his belly button. I mean, you need to be comfortable.
This is Intentionally Ever After. Join intentional lifestyle coach Joe Bukartek for a series of personal conversations and coaching sessions with various people about how living with intention shows up for them.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Intentionally Ever After. Today, I'm excited to chat with my good longtime friend, Chris Chelko. Chris, welcome.
Joe, thanks for having me.
Yes. Chris, who are you?
My name is Chris Chelko. I'm living in Los Angeles, California, and I've been out here about 12 years, maybe 11 years, something like that. Anyways, I was a magician. I was a television producer. I am a collector and designer of custom playing cards, and currently work for a company called Theory 11, where we produce magic, playing cards, games, and a whole bunch of fun things. So I am a creative type.
You are a creative type. Fun things. Yeah, I would definitely, when I think of you, I think of fun things, for sure.
Fun experiences, I think.
Yeah. So prior to California, where were you?
I was in New York, Brooklyn, mostly. So that's where I was teamed up with my friend Mike Dubois. We had a two-man variety show. We traveled the country and parts of the world performing, doing our magic juggling sideshow bits, and then, changed my path. I went down a different path and got into TV producing, got real lucky, and found a job working with Jay Leno at The Tonight Show, and that lasted 5 years as a talent coordinator, which was, I guess, like an associate producer. So we produced a lot of the really, I could talk about this forever. It was one of the best times of my life. But yeah, it's just, working with guests and celebrities and creating bits and comedy segments and just the weird, wacky, fun stuff for TV.
So would you say you were the human version of Scooter from the Muppets?
Scooter, yes. No, I love the Muppets. Scooter was the jack of all trades. He was the guy behind the guys. He was always making sure everything ran on schedule, whatever that meant in Muppet Land. But yeah, I think I can attribute some of my past producer experiences to Scooter.
I've always considered you to be celebrity adjacent. You're my guy. Whenever I want to talk about a famous friend, you're the example that comes up for me. Years ago is when you and Mike were performing, and you were on the Tonight Show, and so on and so forth. And even back in college, you guys are doing some really fun stuff. And it was also fun to be behind the scenes on occasion when you were practicing some of your acts. Yeah, magic's always a good icebreaker. And that's something that, when we would do the private events, whether it was just doing some card tricks during a cocktail hour or something, the joke in magic is that we're professional interrupters, especially at cocktail events. You just walk up to a group and you're like, oh, hey, how's it going, guys? You don't know me. Let's do a card trick. And then they just stop talking, and then all eyes on you. And it's fun. It's really fun. But yeah, that icebreaker, because when you're done, they often don't go back to talking about what they were talking about. They talk about what they just saw. And that carries the conversation to a new direction. That's cool.
Yeah.
And do you just kind of swoop out as quickly as you swoop in?
Kind of like that, sure. Yeah, it depends. Each group it's always different. But yeah, you spend a little bit of time, you talk to people, and at some point, you move on. Yeah.
Have you taken that with you in your post-magic life?
I think...
As far as the ability to pop into any conversation?
Yeah, I think you take that experience of being comfortable approaching people and comfortable talking to people. I've carried that pretty much everywhere I go. It helps as a producer, for sure. You can, especially in late night television, where every show is different and you're working with 1 to 3 to 4 to 5 guests or whatever it is the show for that night. Yeah, you switch gears pretty quick, but having that level of comfort, whether you're talking to Betty White or a guy that can shove $3 of quarters in his belly button. You need to be comfortable. And
so those are two different people?
Those are two different people, yes.
Okay.
But yeah, and that's a good example too of that was one segment. It's like I had a guy who shoved quarters in his belly button, and Betty White was on stage for a segment called Does This Delight Betty White? And you had to do something to impress Betty White. And this guy thought shoving quarters in his belly button would help.
Yeah.
So, but when you're having that conversation with a guy and you're having a conversation with Betty, it's like two separate things, and then you start the show. I love it.
Yeah, I can see why this was, as you referred to it, one of the best times of your life.
Oh man, I mean, it really was. The backstage magic moments, I call them the hallway moments, and it's just that hallway is magical, man. Like between the stage and the dressing rooms during a live show. So it's just incredible. Just people that you never would expect to see in your life.
Yeah.
You're walking by them, or you're conversing with them, or they stop you for a question, because that's just crazy stuff. Yeah, crazy.
So, I can't imagine. So I'm trying to. So are you supposed to pretend like you aren't a totally losing it as a fan?
Well,
like in that moment, you just have to act like you've been there before. Is that the expectation?
Working at the Tonight Show, first of all, working with Jay is like he's just one of the best people ever. I mean, really one of the greatest people to work with. But you work on a show like that has the longevity and the history, and the people are coming to where you work. So, and I know weeks in advance who's going to be there. So it's not, you don't really, there's a level of professionalism, I guess, that when you're walking by, for example, Steve Martin or Robin Williams at the time, it's like, for me, people I idolize, but that they're going to be there. And so you kind of get excited, but you also remain pretty professional, and that's your job. But you walk in, I don't know, anywhere else, like in New York City, you go Washington Square Park. I think I saw Sean Penn one day, and I was like, "Fuck, that is Sean Penn! Wow, that's incredible."
And there he goes.
But if Sean Penn was at work, right, I'd be like, "No, cool, we got Sean Penn today. Okay, Sean, let's do And it's just business as usual. So I don't know. It's just the setting is interesting. But
yeah, setting would make a big difference in that case, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and we all have the same goal. Let's just produce a great show. Whether you're talent or producer or the writer or whatever it is, you're all working towards the same goal. And that I think that's pretty important.
Yeah,
to just kind of keep in the back of your head.
As far as the talent, are they pretty on board with that? I mean, they're pretty used to that role, that they're coming onto these shows and they know that that's kind of the end game here. And so they're generally willing.
Yeah, I think so. The other thing, I mean, you'd be surprised how many celebrities get really nervous for these kind of things. These are people that are in front of cameras all their whole life, but backstage they're a nervous wreck sometimes. And that's always kind of been funny to me. And so you're kind of calming them down or making them feel very comfortable. Yeah.
No kidding.
And
yeah,
I remember I asked one time, it's like, well, why are you so nervous? I mean, don't you do this a lot? He's like, well, I just, I mean, I don't know about the questions, or I want to make sure I'm funny enough, or I have a good story. And people, they're in their head about, obviously the perception, but they want the appearance to be good.
Yeah. Pro move, by the way, and not labeling or listing who that person was that you're referring to.
Well, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of them. So, but yeah, I've never worked with anybody that was horrible.
Yeah. Well,
on that show,
you referenced a career shift or a changing of your path into that life.
Mm-hmm.
In your prior one, though, wasn't your typical lifestyle to begin with, right? You weren't at an accounting firm behind a desk or crunching numbers or interning for some corporation.
Yeah. I mean, in college where you and I met, Mike and I mean, I'd always done magic in my life growing up. It was just something that I did, and I always enjoyed it. But it wasn't really until college that I learned what being good at magic or being a good magician was and what it could be. So when I teamed up with Mike and we decided after college, this is something that we were going to do professionally. I mean, that's a random decision. That's a random thing to just end up doing. I think, especially after you go to college for for me, it was journalism and photography, especially at a time when journalism was changing, like newspapers, right? I mean, I remember in college, I mean, this is 2000, well, I graduated 2003, so this would have been, early 2000s. So just the conversation alone of like where journalism was going was dicey. I think people didn't know what was happening, whether it's print or digital or what, or, blogs and things like that. So yeah, but got into magic, and that was a career path that we did not expect, but we went down that rabbit hole, and it was a lot of fun. We were college entertainers, so we had just graduated college, but we were now going back to colleges all over the country performing.
It's a good way to extend that, yeah.
Yeah. So that made us feel young, but then we also at the same time would do all these like really high-end company events that I was like, I am 23. What? Like, it's a $1 billion company. What do you're really paying us to be here? This is crazy. Okay. I learned it wasn't really, it's about what we were doing, I guess. And that's something they liked. We had a pretty unique act. So yeah, that was fun. But again, I did not expect entertainment to be my career.
Right. Because you had done that again with Mike for a while, for a number of years. And then you decided to make a shift. So what was that decision-making process like for you?
I mean, going back to the Muppets, it's like, I didn't want to be Kermit the Frog. I wanted to be Scooter. I really enjoyed putting the show together, not being in the show. And I didn't know what producing was, but I realized that that's kind of what I was doing with our show. And I just thought that was maybe something I would get into. I didn't know how, though. So I was living in New York. I was struggling, like, okay, we've done all these great things with the two-man act, but now I'm thinking about leaving this show, which is going to affect this other human being and their dream of, performing and doing all that. So we built all this up, and now I'm going to like kind of step out. It's unsettling. It's uncomfortable. Yeah. And then the other half of that is, what do you do? Where do you go? I was 28, and I was like, well, maybe I'll just become a page at NBC. But that's what you do when I don't know. I was just in my head about all that kind of stuff. And as a result of us having been on The Tonight Show in 2004, I had known some of the people there and was out in LA and just had lunch. And one day said with a friend of ours there, and I just had lunch with him and was like, yeah, I'm leaving my show and I'm going to look for work in television. And he's like, really? And that turned into sort of a half interview. And a week later, I was living in LA working at The Tonight Show. Technically not The Tonight Show. It was the 10 o'clock show that Jay had, but we transitioned into The Tonight Show.
That's right. I do recall that. Yeah.
That was a crazy time in late night TV, but that's another story. So.
Yeah, but you were also a part of it, which is fascinating.
Yeah, that was an interesting time.
You referenced, obviously the dynamic that you had where your profession and your career, your lifestyle was very much tied to another individual who wasn't your, life partner.
Right.
Officially.
Right.
How did you negotiate that?
I think at that time it was just a lot of uncertainty. So just just initiating that conversation was the hardest part, to work up the courage to bring it up and then to discuss. And without really an answer. I mean, there was no answer. We had to come to that. Like it's funny, before the opportunity to move out to LA and work at the show, I did have that conversation, but it was, again, not knowing what I was going to do. So we kind of gave ourselves like, okay, let's finish out the year. We've got all these shows in the fall. Let's, do those. Cool. And then you get thrown this curveball of like, okay, well, the folks at Jay's show, they have an opening and they're interested in you, and you learn about this and you have to accept it and move out to LA in less than a week. And that's crazy. So I took it, that's what you do. You have to. When that opportunity comes, you got to do it. So, and then we adjust. Mike and I adjusted. I would fly out and meet him, in Chicago or something and do a show on a weekend. So we did that for a little while. And then at some point transitioned entirely, and he kind of took over everything. And the good thing is a lot of these were mostly college events. So they were pretty cool about it. Yeah. But still, yeah, you gotta every decision at that time was affecting the both of us.
Well, it seems like in this case, others may just as well have said no to other opportunities to see it out and maybe defer their own personal path because of the loyalty question.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe you see that a lot in entertainment, bands especially, right? When somebody wants to be, somebody in a band wants to go do their own, solo something. But, you always get the band back together at some point.
That's right. I won't ask for when your reunion tour is with Mike, but maybe I'll save it for the end.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, because you've kind of talked around this quite a bit already. I'm wondering if you have a definition for living intentionally, what it means for you to live intentionally.
So intentionally, when I think of intentionally, I think of like living with a purpose. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you know what that purpose is, right? But I feel like, for example, like I can wake up every day with a plan, or the idea that I want to have a plan, but I don't know what that plan is yet. So like maybe it's just I start off and I make coffee, and in that moment of making coffee, I'll drink coffee and I'll just come up with my day. So that's my purpose for the day. Like whether it's I want to make a phone call and talk to my parents, or just be better at something, or acknowledge something, or obviously there's work, right? I mean, you're always going to have that list of things to do for work, but just waking up with a purpose, I think, is a good way to start the day. And you can make every day. That's a different thing you can make up every day. So to live intentionally, yeah, I think it's just doing that. It's not, you don't have to know everything, right? But sorry, I just got distracted. It's leaf blower time.
Excellent. Nice.
The neighbors, every Monday around this time, I should have told you, leaf blower. Leaf blower Mondays. In any case, they woke up intentionally today to blow around some leaves.
And you're saying it could change on a daily basis, but it sounds like part of the living with intention is that you do kind of have a general plan for each day.
No, going back to that though, so to just close it up. Yeah, I think it means to live with purpose. I mean, the plan is to come up with a plan. I think, and that's just for me. I've never been really good at knowing down the road what I'm doing. I've never really been good at planning next year or next week. It's just been planning the day and kind of one step at a time. Now, I can work backwards if it's a project-based something, right, for work. We know what we want at the end of the day, but what do we need to do to get there? I mean, that's different. But as far as my life goes, not real good at planning ahead, just planning like in real time that day.
Yeah. Does that make it easier to quote unquote live in the present?
I wonder. I don't know. I think.
How good do you feel you are at living in the present, at being present?
Living in the moment?
Yeah.
Probably not great. I think I'm getting better at that. There are moments like in my life that I treasure that I experience, just experiences mostly, that definitely in that moment, you don't even realize maybe it's a moment, until afterwards, until you either come down off that high and you're like, that was incredible, or this was awesome, or what just happened. Like that's pretty awesome. But I don't know how often I actually live in the moment, because I don't know that it's a moment.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So it sounds like it's not really possible to be self-aware that you're in the moment until after the fact, after it's passed.
Yeah. Or somebody says something, brings attention to it.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah. I wonder if you're just so good at it. It's just no big deal. Right? It's just like Sean Penn walking past.
I don't know if I'm so good at anything, but I can do things. I just don't know if I'm so good at them. I wish I was so good at like one thing, you know?
Yeah. You don't, okay. If you were good at one thing, so good at one thing, what would that one thing be? What would you want to be known for?
Oh, I don't know if I want to be known. I don't know if I could ever be known for anything, but I would love to. I mean, I love music so much, but I can't sing. I can't play any musical instrument. I can make sounds on instruments, but I can't play any of them. So I would love to be able to play the guitar or the piano. I'd love to be able to like sing and play guitar or sing and play the piano. Not for any other reason, just to be able to do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to write songs and record songs and sell songs. I just want to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But those are all things I can learn. I just haven't, I imagine, right?
Yeah. Maybe tomorrow when you come up with your thing for the day, that can be one of the things.
Yeah. I mean, other people have learned how to do it.
Seemingly, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what you enjoy.
But then some people, I think, can just, my favorite kinds of people are these savants that just like can do something. I mean, it's just wired in their brain that's just, I mean, you just play the piano. Like instinctively, they just know this key will make that sound. That's burned in their brain forever. And then they do that for all the rest of the keys, and they can make any song they ever wanted to for the rest of their life. I mean, that stuff is just incredible to me.
Yeah. Seemingly pretty easily.
Yeah.
What would be a key ingredient to your ideal day?
A key ingredient to my ideal day? I think the key ingredient would be the opposite of stress. What is that?
What is that?
Because if I didn't have stress, you know, to hold me back or to wear me out or whatever, I mean,
yeah,
just for one day, that would be pretty great. Not that I have a lot of stress every day, but there are some stressful things always, whether it's in just regular life or work, or right now, these leaf blowing guys, not stressing me out, but man, use a broom, a little more quiet.
I bet if you look outside, they're not experiencing too much stress right now.
No, they've got these giant headphones on that are covering their ears and blocking out all the rest of the world around them. Yeah. In fact, they probably don't realize how loud their thing is. And it's actually illegal.
No kidding.
They can get like a $500 fine because they're 20 feet from the building.
Yeah, I can see why.
Yeah. Nobody enforces that though.
Half of us don't know that's a thing.
Well, yeah. Anyways, you can cut that out of this chat. We don't need to talk about leaf blowing.
This is how we're going to start it off. We're going to splice this for the beginning.
Yeah, right.
When was the last time you experienced a stress-free or limited stress day?
I honestly, like, weekends are pretty much that for me. The hardest part about our Saturday, we just found me and my fiance, Michaela, we found this brand new place in near the Grove in Los Angeles called Sidecar Coffee and Donuts. And let me tell you, I mean, I love coffee and I love donuts. And this place has the greatest donuts I've ever had in my entire life.
Wow.
So we found this place, and that is the hardest part of my day on Saturday, is deciding which donut I'm going to get. And that to me that's the perfect Saturday.
I mean, that's the perfect amount of stress too. That's the perfect type of stress. I mean, it sounds stressful the way you just presented it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not really a cake donut person, but they specialize in like the cake donut, and it's not made at 5 a.m. It's made like 10 minutes before you eat it. And they do these seasonal flavors. Anyways, it's great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that sounds like it might be a key ingredient to your ideal day. And also perhaps a situation where you don't have to choose. It's
there you go.
It's a stress-free decision. Decisions made for you, perhaps.
Well, yeah. You know, and it's funny, that place reminds me consistently that just simple is better, because their classic old-fashioned cake donut is the one I go back to all the time. You could try their huckleberry whatever, or their butter and salt, or, whatever flavor of the week they got. But boy, you go back to the classic old fashioned, nothing better.
Nice.
But you go back to the basics on almost anything. You can't beat it.
I like that. It's a good takeaway right there.
Yeah.
Do you have a habit that you've honed along the way that has had an exponential payoff?
I don't know if I have I've got habits, and habits are usually bad, right?
Mm.
But, I think that we attribute habits as being a bad thing.
You're not alone in that. I've had other guests reference that a habit to them has a negative connotation to it, like a bad habit instead of good habits.
Bad habit, whether you're biting your nails or you're smoking or you're drinking or you're, speeding or I don't know what it is. Yeah, those are all habits, and we often try to break habits. But what I've learned through, for example, something I don't do very well is physical exercise. I go up and down with it. But that's to create a habit of exercising is a good thing, right? For me, and something I didn't really know about until I moved out here through a few friends, was acknowledgement. So, and I don't know if acknowledgement is a habit, but just the act in itself of being mindful of, others around you, whether it's through conversation or just being mindful of how you are in your relationship or your friendships, or just random people in line at the donut shop. Just being mindful of the people around you and the way that you are also, I think has been, when it's good, it's good. And obviously, like there's moments, all the time that you can struggle with trying to be mindful of yourself and how you are in a certain situation and how to react and not overreact or whatever, react appropriately. Of course, mostly in relationship, I think, but just in real life, you can develop a habit to be more mindful, and that can lead to acknowledging, the people around you.
Yeah, I think that's actually really powerful as far as a habit. The mindfulness piece sounds maybe internal. Help clarify what you mean by when you're saying acknowledgement. It sounds like that's engaging with the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you see it as well?
Yeah, I think maybe those two things are a little different. Yeah, I mean, acknowledgement is I think let's see, how can I put this? Yeah, maybe being mindful is more internal. That's me being aware of myself and the way I am around people. And then the acknowledgement is acknowledging whatever situation I'm in or the environment I'm in or the people I'm around. And whether it's taking the time to acknowledge them for something or acknowledge what they've done or whatever it is. But I think maybe it starts with the mindfulness to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense at all?
It makes a lot of sense to me. It might just be you and me on this one, though. I don't know if anyone else gets it, but that doesn't matter. Actually, what it makes me think of now is, this period of intense Zooming that we've been doing, all these Zoom meetings many of us have been forced to have.
Yeah.
Some of us previously did them prior to the pandemic, but now it's definitely a thing, right? You got Zoom fatigue and all that. Makes me think of, I don't know how much you've experienced this, being in a Zoom meeting or session with multiple people and the power of acknowledging when someone enters into it, as well as the power of not acknowledging someone when they come in. If you're like you and I are having a conversation, someone enters in the being mindful of that other person, welcoming them in, or what effect that has if that person is not acknowledged when they come in.
Well, the good thing about Zoom and a meeting like that is when they do come in, it. When you're on the phone, all you hear is a ding, and you're like, "Was that a ding? Is that somebody in the call?"
Right.
I can't. Anyways,
Right.
Hello? Is somebody?
Yeah.
And then it becomes awkward. But at least with the Zoom element of it, you can see somebody pop on, even if they're not on camera. I mean, you can at least see a name pop up. And that, if anything, that's a moment to sort of, if if you can, yeah, I think it's great to be. It feels so good to be acknowledged for something.
Yeah.
Anything, even if it's just a little tiny thing. Yeah, human beings respond well to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I acknowledge that response that you gave.
Even a hello. My good friend Finian is really great at that. He's just really good at just saying hello to people he doesn't even know. And I think that goes a long way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, I'm going to ask this question now.
Yeah.
Who is someone you admire, and what do you admire about them?
Somebody I admire. So the real truth is, and this has come over the course of my relationship, it's my fiance, Michaela. I admire her because there are many, many examples in our relationship where she is just, right. What I've learned over time is that I need to be a better active listener. And when I am, things are just better. And it's because she just has a really unique perspective on a lot of things. And a lot of times what the things she'll through conversation or whatever it is, she just has the perspective on it that I was missing. And so when I listen to her more, I then in turn sort of become just more aware of how narrow I was on something or how, whatever. And so, yeah, I think, so she's definitely somebody that I've been admiring and always admire. I always admire. And recently, Joe, you with, I think this podcast and creating a platform for this kind of open dialogue. That's right. It's recorded. I think what you're doing is really fantastic, and it's not easy. So good on you, buddy. Cool. Of course. Thank you. Thank you for that, and thank you for being a part of that and making it possible. This has been great. And mostly because of the people I get to have on and the conversations I get to have. I obviously have had conversations throughout the years, and one, spoiler alert, we were roommates back in the day. We were. And so we had some deeper conversations. Some, not even all of them were alcohol induced, believe it or not. And so we've had some good connection points. And so it's really fun to be able to connect these years later through this context as well. So thank you for being a part of it. Yeah. It's been good. Yeah. Yeah. What do you imagine that some people admire about you? That's a good question. I think something for me that is pretty consistent is my work ethic. I just work a lot, and it's always on, because I've always enjoyed what I've done, whether it's performing or producing or creating or whatever it is, I've just always really enjoyed it. And so I put a lot of time and heart into everything. And so I think it's that. I think also when it comes to like friendship and loyalty, I'd like to think I'm a pretty loyal friend. What makes a loyal friend? I think just being available, being supportive, being engaged, moments of laughter, and then, and of course the opposite side, just being there for whenever you need, someone to talk to. I value my friendships quite a bit, and while you're not always engaged in communication all the time, there are moments when I'll catch up with friends who I haven't talked to in a while, and it's like, time hadn't even passed. So you can just pick up where you left off real quick. And I think that's a sign of a good friendship as well. Life gets busy and you do a million things, and even during pandemic, it's like, I have good friends and spoke to them very briefly over the pandemic here and there. But between the time that I last saw them and the time I just saw them, they bought a house, they had a baby. I mean, like there's a whole new life that they built in that time frame. So I just, I think that's what being a loyal friend is just kind of being there, being aware, and being a good friend. I don't know.
You're here. Yeah, I think you do. Yeah. I think you do. I'd suggest another example of being a loyal friend is maybe appearing on a friend's podcast.
Well, that's a commitment. No. No.
That's true too.
No, of course. I mean, I've never really done a podcast, actually. This is nice.
You're crushing it, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you.
Early numbers are in. You're nailing it. Yep.
This is live? Is this live? So what podcast is?
What area in your life feels just about perfect?
Nothing. If I'm being totally honest. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you for being honest.
I don't know if there is anything in my life that's absolutely perfect. But I don't know if I don't think the question was about being perfect, but close to perfect, right? Like just about. Is that right? So I think we always try to make things perfect. And I think the minute we stop trying to make something perfect, it probably isn't going to be perfect anymore. Because we've stopped, right? Like, have we settled? Is that fair to say? Like, I'm somebody that's always like, I'll get somewhere with something and be like, okay, that's great. I really love it. And then a year later, I'll go back and go, wow, well, I could do this to it now. I could. What if I did?
Ooh, example, please.
I mean, I produce these decks of playing cards. It's just a fun side project. I love playing cards. I collect them. I think the artwork is beautiful in them. And so I did a deck inspired by an old Magic poster from 1894. A magician named Harry Keller. His advertising campaign it had a lot of these little mysterious creatures called imps. These little red impish things that were whispering secrets and all that kind of stuff to him, right? And that was like the ad campaign for a very long time in all of his posters. So I did a deck that kind of was a nod to that. It was called the Whispering Imps deck. I did it, and so I did the first version, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And I had like the logo, and I had it all decked out. But then I was like, a year later, I was like, well, what if I just got rid of that? Got rid of the logo, got rid of it. It just had just that red imp. Just that's it. I mean, I was in my brain, I was like, oh, Nike swoosh, It's just that kind of like the Ralph Lauren, polo guy. It was just, that's what I was trying to get to. But you don't see that when you're like, oh, okay, name brand. You put this there and that and the blah, the bells and the whistles. And then you're like, nah, you gotta maybe take it back a few steps. But that's something you do with, I think, most things. You get somewhere, you're happy, and then you re and you make it the new version of perfect.
Yeah, I like that. It sounds like it's getting at the idea of iterating, right? Mm-hmm. But continual improvement, perhaps?
Continual improvement, yes. Don't stop.
Yeah.
It's like, don't stop till it's perfect, but it's like the thing is, maybe it's never going to be perfect. You can just always get it to the next perfect.
Yeah.
And then reevaluate next time.
I like it. I like how we're redefining perfect, right? The question was meant in quotes anyway, so
okay.
I think you got at it quite a bit.
Okay, all right.
I want to circle back, before I let you go with the rest of your day. I have a question in here about, something that you've said no to that has made a significant impact. And I'm wondering if you have something like that, this thing or this decision that you've made, decisions you've made or said no to. But also, is there a decision that you've made? Maybe it wasn't a no, but a singular decision that you've made that has had a significant impact in your life?
I typically do say yes. I typically say yes to a lot of things. And I think that comes from the reward of finding out where that takes you. I'm not... There are things... we've talked about this, like alcohol, for example, for me in my life. I've come to, through a lot of conversation with like my fiance and stuff, it's just, I think that I've recently, in the last month, have said no to it, but I've been through that process of saying no for a few years. And while I've said no to it for a long time in periods of time, recently I've said no on what hopefully will become a more permanent level. So in that case, I think that I know that with my decisions of alcohol, drinking alcohol excessively the way that I have, I know that doesn't really turn out great. I mean, on many, on any level, right? I mean, it could go. Yeah, it's never going to be a good thing.
The drinking excessive doesn't?
There's no happy ending to any of that. So to remind myself of that and be like, and every day when I wake up and I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to be live intentionally today? For example, it's like, I just have to remember that not drinking alcohol today is going to be a good thing. And that means it's going to make tomorrow better also. So that's something I've said no to recently that I think will have a significant impact for the better in my life.
I truly hope so. I believe so, but I also hope so.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
as I sit with a bar behind me.
Oh, I see it. Oh, yeah. No one else will see that. What no one else can see currently is the fully stocked bar. That's for guests, obviously, moving forward. But also the poster that you referenced a little bit ago of the magician with the whispering.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's the Harry Keller poster. So that's an authentic original lithograph from 1894. And my friend Justin Willman, who's a magician, he got that for me one year. It is that is what started my entire line of playing cards.
That's pretty cool.
Was that poster? Yeah. Yeah, man.
Christopher, any other remaining thoughts or existing thoughts on intentionality or really anything that you want to share?
I mean, you've asked me. I'm curious what motivates you to live intentionally.
What motivates me? Every time I have a positive experience, it motivates me. In using the alcohol lens, every time I wake up without a hangover, which is every day, it motivates me. Every time my son says, I'm having such a good day or I'm in such a good mood, it motivates me. And it motivates me to do the things and make the decisions that result in me spending time on the things that I want to be doing and with the people who I want to be spending my time with. That's how I define living with intention, is spending my time on the things and with the people that are important to me. So just constant reinforcement of successes, just the mini successes along the way. Yeah. That's what honestly motivates me, not to mention getting to have these recorded conversations with old and new friends about living with intention, to just keep that message going, and obviously in the other part of my life, my coaching career, constantly working with people on how living with intention shows up for them and how to continue getting that more. It's just, I often refer to it as rigging the system, right? So I have no choice but to be surrounded by the idea of intentionality, so that when I go through a day or even half a day of not living with intention, I can really feel it now. It really stands out. And not to say that I'm 100% successful all the time, but it's my low moments are far less frequent and the duration is far shorter than it ever used to be. So just constant reinforcement. And, I talk enough about intentionality in all my spheres that, people will call me out if I'm seemingly doing something that is unintentional. So I have a ton of accountability that really, really helps. Yeah.
What sounds like creating the habit of intentionality is something that maybe we can strive for. Maybe if we're creating an intentional moment every day, or working to try and create something in like an intentional moment every day, then we're maybe developing that habit. To feel that, right? Like you said, you can feel when you're not being intentional, and And that's a muscle that you've worked on. That's something that you've developed over time that now you can recognize that. And to get to that point that's pretty awesome.
It is pretty awesome. I got to say, not that I feel like I'm through. Actually, yeah, I do. I'm going to say that I am through some really tough stuff, some shit.
Yeah.
And what in my life feels just about perfect? The question you were about to ask me, obviously.
Yes.
Most of my life feels just about perfect.
Wow.
And it's through constant experimentation of these things.
Uh-huh.
I played around with waking up. What time do I wake up to wake up early? And, and bringing running back into my life after going years without it and just different challenges. And I love keeping it light and kind of gamifying it.
Yeah.
And I've noticed for me in particular that there are phases. It's almost cyclical throughout the year and things will shift. So it's not the same today as it will be at the end of the fall season, for example. A lot of that for me has to do with my son's school calendar, quite frankly, and schedules and things like that. But the openness, the flexibility, not being overly rigid, but still having set parameters, the things that I know I need or I want in my life. And knowing those because I've tried so many different things. So I think you're absolutely right, hitting on the habit idea of just trying things until you determine whether you like them enough for them to become habit.
Wow. Yeah. I think that's fantastic.
I also think it's fantastic. Thank you for that lens.
You should make make that a poster.
Yeah, I'm going to do that right now. Put a whispering imp on my shoulder.
Yeah. Merch, man. Merch.
Yeah, guys. I'll put the link in the show notes.
10%
off.
Get
something going.
Using this promo code.
That's right.
Oh, man.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah,
all right. Any other nuggets? That was a good nugget.
That was good. I don't know, man. This is your podcast.
Yeah, I know. I love outsourcing all the content.
Yeah, right.
That's one other secret to my success. Inviting them to be the experts because you are. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I mean, at what? I don't know, but I think, I don't know. At the end of the day, like I even mentioned it earlier, but like I've had a lot of really great experiences and that alone for me has helped shape my life and the way that I kind of see things. Yeah. And I'd say most of those have been pretty positive, but it's also that negative stuff or the sad stuff that also shapes you. Yeah. You go through a few of those too. And as long as you're balanced out at the end, you're pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, as long as it was a pretty good day, I'm happy.
I think that's a good thing to shoot for is something that's pretty good, right?
Yeah. Ginger ale, man.
Nice. So I raise a toast to you, a non-alcoholic toast.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I mean, with alcohol, I don't, it's so weird, man. I don't crave it. Yeah. I don't wake up and I'm like, oh, I need a drink. The problem is my problem is that one is not enough. Mm-hmm. And so if one's not enough, then it's like I'm the guy at the table drinking, the bottle of wine when everyone else is still on their first glass. And it's like, that's also not great. So how about instead of one, it's just none? And then...
Yeah, it's easy to measure.
Much easier. Easy to keep track of. And you can still drive home after that too.
Yeah, another benefit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all good things.
Speaking of good things, I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your presence here and your careful consideration of these questions I posed to you. Most of which I will acknowledge were not on the list of questions that I sent you. So I appreciate your
of course,
flexibility.
Man. Hey, I like rolling with it. I mean, it's one thing to you can overproduce, and I'm glad you didn't. You gave me some questions. And you're like, we might get there, we might not. Who knows? It's a conversation, but I also like rolling with it. It's good to know where you're going, but maybe not entirely all the time.
Yeah. Very well stated. I thought you might appreciate that as the consummate creative type.
Yeah.
That you are.
Yeah, man. You need the freedom. That's where you get the gold, when you go off script.
Indeed. So I will go off script when I say thank you, even though that is also part of my script. I genuinely appreciate it.
Yeah.
The time, the consideration, and I look forward to our next soon encounter.
Well, thank you, Joe. Thanks for this opportunity. It's always good to talk to you. So let's do it again, whether it's recording or not.
Yes, agreed.
All right.
This has been Intentionally Ever After, hosted by intentional lifestyle coach Joe Bukartek. If you would like to have your own intentional conversation with Joe on or off the air, visit intentionallyeverafter.com. Thanks for listening.